amazing how walls can tell so many stories.
It's stunningly preserved.
We literally have the castle to ourselves.
Do you love that feeling of standing where kings ruled, where myths were born, where battles shaped borders? There's just something about walking on worn down stone, just imagining everyone who walked there before you. Hi, I'm Justine.
And I'm Daryl.
And we're the Breakaway Bravehearts. So lucky in our travels, being able to stand on the grounds and touch the walls that have seen empires rise, stories turn into legends. So in this video, we're going to share that with you. We'll take you to 5 different castles in 5 different countries, each from a totally different era. And we'll look at how each one played a role in human history. We'll share the stories, the vibes, and a few tips for when you get to go and see them for yourself. We're starting in 4th century BCE, at the edge of the ancient Illyrian world. Rozafa Castle in North Albania sits where 3 rivers meet. Its location is a vital crossroads for early trade, defence and settlement, and it's one of the oldest fortresses in the Balkans. First walls were raised by the Illyrians, but it has been home to many cultures. What we see now is a blend of ancient foundations, Venetian bastions and Ottoman-era structures just layered over time.
They are impressive ruins. You can just see the prime location, having all of this surroundings to be able to feel protected and safe. It's really interesting.
The first invaders were the Romans in 167 BCE, who captured it after the Third Illyrian War, marking the end of the Illyrian kingdom. The nearby city of Skoda became a Roman military base until the Roman Empire fell and the region became part of the Byzantine Empire. Over time, it's passed through the hands of various powers, including Slavic rulers, the Bulgarian Empire, and local Albanian and Serbian lords, before coming under Venetian control as part of their efforts to secure trade routes and resist Ottoman expansion.
I love the fact that the roads, the cobbles, this is what you call original. Look at this.
But the most enduring story linked to this place is a legend, the sacrifice of Rozafa, a legend that teaches us about the values of the time.
Have you heard the story, the legend about this play? I mean, it involves like human sacrifice. There was 3 brothers. They were having problems keeping the walls built up, but they would always fall down. So this man says, the God demands that you make a human sacrifice. Rozafa, the wife of one of the brothers, actually said, it's okay, you can bury me alive in these walls. Although she did have one concern. Her concern was her son. So she asked for 1 eye, 1 arm, 1 foot, and her breast left free so that she was able to comfort her child.
Still weeps milky tears.
It's a really haunting story, dark but also kind of poetic, and when you walk around here you get that haunting feeling. It's quiet, especially in the off-season. We visited in October and it was sunny but not too hot, and the crowds had disappeared. There are buses that will bring you here from Tirana, but most travellers will rent a car and drive. If so, please check out our video on driving in the Balkan for tips, as the roads here might be very different to what you are used to. If you do drive, we recommend parking down the bottom of the hill. It's a simple walk up with a stunning view, and the parking up here is much more complicated.
Here's, you've got to be quite a driver.
So you drive up, but you've got to back down.
We also recommend checking out the museum inside, which has a small collection showing the history of the castle, and you'll get to see Rozafa in the stone. There's plenty of information in Albanian, English and Braille. A guide was also on hand speaking English and very kindly offered to answer any of our questions. Make sure you bring water and sturdy shoes for walking on the uneven ground.
Certainly bought the wrong shoes for this one.
And bring a good camera too. That view over Lake Skoda and into Montenegro is worth the trip by itself. You can understand why so many different powers fought for this piece of land. It's strategically brilliant. But I think what I loved most about Rozafa was its rawness. Definitely isn't polished or flashy. You can walk all over the ruins without safety barriers. If you come with a child or an impulsive Leo, you might want to hold their hand.
Whoa, don't let me fall down. This one doesn't even have
Yeah. I
It's,
saw that one.
it's like
Yeah.
you're not watching where you're stepping, you go right down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a great little day trip for anyone who loves history or beautiful scenery and views. As we move into the Middle Ages, castles become more about power in a practical sense, controlling land, watching borders, and enforcing authority. And religion plays a big part. In places like Spain, where Muslim and Christian kingdoms fought for territory, castles weren't just strongholds, they were the frontline symbols of who was in charge. Atalaya Castle is a perfect example. Perched above the town of Vienna in southeastern Spain, it dates to the 12th and 13th centuries. It looks like something out of a storybook. But it wasn't built for beauty. This was a fortress with a clear purpose, to control territory. The name Atalaya comes from Arabic, meaning watchtower. It reflects the castle's origin under Islamic rule.
Wow.
The castle was built by the Almohades.
Okay.
Almohades was people that came from North Africa. But later, the King James I conquered all the castle.
Yeah, conquista.
The architecture still shows both sides. The double walls and square towers follow Islamic designs, while later reinforcements under Castilian rule brought in Gothic and Romanesque features. And then later on, some rebuilds were needed when the castle defended itself from French invasion.
This door is not the original one, because the French, during Napoleon time, decided to destroy to conquer the castle. And we had to rebuild all the main doors.
So we can have a look up here where the turrets tried to protect the door. Certainly not easy. As soon as they got past a certain point, they wouldn't have been able to see. I mean, literally, people would have to poke their head right out here to protect that door.
The castle really is wonderfully preserved, giving you an insight into life at the time.
And it's curious because you can see all houses of poor people.
This is where the poor people
It's
live.
incredible, but inside live people in the past.
One of the most fascinating features is one the architects never intended: graffiti.
Oh, wow, look at this. This is cool, yeah? I love the way they call it graffiti. I'm not sure if, I mean, it's interesting. It's like a storytelling, isn't it?
I guess that's what modern graffiti is too.
So this graffiti was actually put here by prisoners of war, and in particular a shipwrecked Italian. He was captured on the Alicante coast, and then they brought him here because it's so far away from the coast he couldn't escape or be rescued. And apparently the wall was all black because of gunpowder, and then he scratched into it with a sharp object, a rock or something, and created these, I'd call them artworks. Well, he actually scratched his name on it, so it was 1812 when he signed his name. But it was not just him. Apparently there's a whole bunch of prisoners of war that were held in this room, and they added as they went along. Here's the modern version.
Atalaya represents a time when castles were part of a much bigger picture, political tools in long power struggles between kingdoms and religions. And from up here you can see why. Whoever held this castle could see the whole valley and control who came through.
Wow, this is amazing.
It is actually, isn't it? Once you're a king of the castle like this, you can really, see so much. You can see how the Muslim community live together, really close. But you can almost also understand how difficult that must be for anyone who's going to attack a castle. They're almost protected first by all those little corridors and things, right?
This neighborhood was the Raval. This is the reason you can see narrow streets.
Absolutely,
twisty and
really
so,
twisty
okay.
and narrow.
The old town was really interesting. It's kind of falling down in parts. It's in disarray, if that's the word. But I actually really liked it. I liked the atmosphere and the vibe.
The keep with 4 floors that contained the main quarters of the fortress, standing at 30 meters in height. Apparently it's where the Lord and Master would reside.
By the 14th century, Atalaya belonged to the House of Vienna, powerful noble family tied to the Castilian crown. They had some interesting practices, which the castle does a great job of sharing.
So whose story's being told here?
Well, I'm quite interested in this lady here. She is the Infanta of Aragon. When she was born, she was kind of a bargaining chip. Her marriage was arranged when she was 3 years old. At the age of 6, she was transferred here to this castle where she was confined so that her marriage could be celebrated at the age of 12. At the time, her husband was 30 years old. She named her first daughter the one with the miserable fate, which probably wasn't doing her daughter any favours. Her daughter was then married when she was 9 and then locked up at the age of 11 and died at the age of 27. It does actually say here that widows or maidens may not be given to a husband against their will by any powerful man, and that whoever kidnaps or forces a woman in the town will die on that spot. But maybe it doesn't apply to the wealthy.
Enrique de Vienna gained fame as a sorcerer for his studies in mathematics, philosophy, and astrology. It's amazing how things have moved forward and how we view these professions these days compared. Once upon a time, you would have been known as a sorcerer. I think it's really nice to see a proper looking castle and how it would have been utilised. And the stories it's got about its prisoners is really, really interesting. The fact that we had the castle pretty much to ourselves was fabulous. So we're going to be the only ones in here.
Yeah, just for you.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you so much.
So you see, this is the benefits of coming off season, because we literally have the castle to ourselves. How amazing is that?
But you do need to know that in the rest of the town, not all the doors will be opened for you. In the off-season, many places have shorter hours or are closed until summer, so it's best to check their websites before you go.
Here we are in sort of like November, beginning of November, and it's been 20 degrees.
But we recommend you head there in the spring when it's cooler and there are lots of local festivals happening. If you check out our video on Vienna, you'll see what else the town has to offer.
And of course, I love being the king of the castle, going up to the top there and trying to imagine just the landscape. €3 entry fee. Again, another chance to learn something, another chance to experience something that you perhaps wouldn't experience.
By the late 13th century, the castles are no longer just local strongholds, they're now tools of royal authority, built by kings to project power across entire kingdoms. And no one did that quite like Edward I of England.
Conwy Castle was built by King Edward I of England and took only 4 years, from 1238 to 1237. It has a significant role in Welsh history. It's stunningly preserved. It definitely is one of the best preserved castles I've seen. And the views are magnificent. The castle cost £15,000 to build, which was a third of Edward's military budget.
One of the coolest things is that you can actually walk up into all 8 towers. And thanks to some beautifully restored spiral staircases, you can do a full circuit around the battlements.
Hi! Honestly, this castle is something for everyone. You're going to love it. And if you're a history buff, this is going to tick all the boxes. So if this video ticks the boxes for you, don't forget to hit subscribe and the notifications bell.
It's like walking through a living time machine. Walking around, you can really imagine what life was like here centuries ago, particularly as there are many details of daily life.
12 latrines lined up against the castle wall. They cost Edward £15 to build. That's £45,000 in today's money. So why did he build such expensive toilets? Logistics. It meant that all his servicemen could quickly spend a penny without interfering in their work.
Edward I designed this castle using the most advanced military architecture of the medieval period.
It was part of his campaign to conquer and control Wales, and is just one of several fortresses across North Wales that form the Iron Ring. It's strategically placed at the north mouth of the River Conwy, allowing access from both land and sea. It's designed not just as a military strongpoint, but as a symbol of power to protect the English inside and intimidate the local Welsh on the outside of the walls. Not everyone could be easily intimidated, however, and in 1401 the castle experienced its first major challenge. Owain Glyndwr was a Welsh nobleman and military leader who led a major revolt against English rule in Wales in the early 15th century. On April 1st, April Fool's Day, 1401, the English garrison that was stationed here headed out to attend an Easter service. Owain knew this was the perfect time to attack. A small group of his supporters dressed up as carpenters and snuck in, seized control of the castle. Although the castle was later retaken by the English, Glendower's attack was a sign of how strategic and serious he was. It sent a strong message about Welsh defiance and sparked a lot of support for his cause.
Owain went on to win more battles against the English, and in 1404 he was crowned Prince of Wales. Many still keep his dream of an independent Wales alive. The castle is cared for by Cadw, the Welsh Government's Historic Environment Service.
It's absolutely stunning to walk through. There's all these little narrow nooks and crannies. But out here is a stunning view. I mean, you can definitely see why Edward would see this as a strategic masterpiece.
There are helpful info points dotted around in both English and Welsh, so you can soak up the history as you go. The castle's open pretty much every day during regular hours, though it does change a bit in the off-season, so definitely check the website. I've popped the link below. If you've got Cadw membership, good news, you get in free.
If you have an English heritage card, bring that along with you and you'll get 50% off entry. Also, you should know some of the stairwells are very narrow and can get quite dark in places, so you want to hold on to the ropes and take care.
But is there anything else to do in Conwy? Yes, there is much more to Conwy than just stone and towers. This place is full of character. Locals will tell you Conwy's lovely year-round, so the best time really depends on what you're after. If you're into festivals, warmer weather and lively streets, May to September is perfect.
I'm here in the shoulder season. The weather is stunning. It's early April, but it's quite busy. There is quite a few people here. I can imagine mid-season, this place would be packed.
So if you prefer quieter vibes and fewer crowds, late autumn, early spring can be just as magical. Just make sure you pack layers. My hat was not only for protecting me from the sun, it was keeping me warm in the chilly spring wind.
There's plenty of public transport, but honestly, I'd take the train. It's quick, comfortable and cheap.
Plus, you get a fabulous view of the coastline. For the most up-to-date schedules and to plan your journey, I recommend Trainline, linked below.
By the 1500s, warfare had changed. Gunpowder and cannon fire made tall medieval walls obsolete, and castles had to adapt fast, which brings us to Pendennis Castle on the coast of Cornwall, a fortress built not to protect a king's claim to land, but to defend his whole kingdom from invasion. In England, forts like Pendennis were part of the whole new system of coastal defence, built to face a different kind of threat, invasion by the sea. Pendennis Castle was built as part of Henry VIII's project to build forts across the English coastline to protect the country from France and the Holy Roman Empire, which he had succeeded in royally annoying in his determination to unmarry his first wife. The design is all about artillery. Oh, cartridge, wadding, shot. Press the red button to fire. Woo! Boom, there it goes. Let's see what we hit. It's a total shift from vertical to horizontal power. Wide bastions instead of tall towers. It was part of what Henry called his device forts, designed to stop French or Spanish ships from landing. But in the end, the only serious attack it ever faced came from within. Ironically, although all those guns pointed out to sea, the only real threat came from across the fields behind them. In 1646, during the English Civil War, it became one of the last royalist strongholds to hold out against parliamentarian forces. About 1,000 people were trapped inside. They were under siege for 5 months, longer than almost any other castle during the Civil War. It earned a reputation for loyalty and resilience. Not bad for a fortress built over 100 years earlier. Wow! We've stumbled into Pendennis on a very special day. It's their annual Knights Tournament. Every summer, English Heritage hosts event days that offer their visitors a hands-on history through roleplay and reenactments. At today's event, we've got knights and their squires, medieval minstrels, scribes and villagers, armourers and falconers.
I want you all to shout, scream, clap your hands, stamp your feet, throw your babies high into the air.
The tradition of jesters has gone back centuries. By the time construction on Pendennis was started, jesters were a common and well-loved feature in the royal court and had an important role keeping agitated royals and tense political situations under control using humour and distraction. Licensed fools had the privilege to talk and mock freely without being punished, allowing important messages to be safely heard. We were lucky enough to get the important messages of a modern-day jester, Rob Sims, as he celebrates 40 years in the industry. If you'd like to catch that interview, click the link above.
The castle has been well looked after and you can walk through the full structure getting a good feel for what life was like for the people throughout the centuries who lived and worked there.
Isn't it interesting because they would have had the boats with the Cornish flags on them?
You can get to Pendennis by train from London. It'll take you about 5 hours. Once you're in Falmouth, there's plenty of local buses, or it's just a 20-minute walk to the castle. The best times to visit are probably spring to early autumn. The coastal paths and sea views are at their best then, and it won't be so crowded. Cornwall does suffer from over-tourism in the summertime. Opposite the castle is the barracks, built in 1902, which brought the castle out of decline and back into operation as a part of English military defences. Inside, you'll find an exhibition about the role the castle played during both World Wars, which included training and defence planning.
Our journey ends not with a war, but a dream, a fantasy of what we wished castles had been, because this magnificent German castle, Löwenburg, isn't a medieval fortress, it's a fairy tale, just like the stories it is linked to.
As you walk up to Löwenburg, you're stunned by this amazing fairy tale castle. You can just imagine Rapunzel's hair coming all the way down to the ground. You can see Sleeping Beauty up into the tower. Yeah, no, wrong.
Built in the late 18th century, it's one of the earliest examples of a new kind of architecture, Romantic revival.
By the late 1700s, the age of castles as military strongholds was over. Europe was changing fast. Revolutions, empires, industrialization. But in the middle of all that, a few people looked back and imagined a past that felt nobler. And one of them was Landgrave Wilhelm IX of Hesse-Kassel, a German prince with money, imagination, and a love of medieval chivalry. But not the reality. Wilhelm commissioned Löwenburg, or Lion's Castle, in 1793. It was never meant for defence, it was meant for storytelling. It was his private retreat, a kind of theatrical home where he entertained guests, collected medieval art, and indulged in his fascination with chivalry. But Wilhelm couldn't have guessed that it would ever have to withstand an actual attack. During World War II, the castle was badly damaged by Allied bombing. Its ornate interiors, including much of the armoury and chapel, were nearly destroyed. Restoration work began soon after the war, and today what you see is partly original, partly reconstructed, which seems kind of fitting for a building that was always blending imagination and reality. So Löwenburg isn't a relic of the Middle Ages, it's a relic of how the Middle Ages were remembered.
An example of how people reshape the past to reflect the stories they want to hear.
While it might just be a replica, it is 200 years old. It is an amazing place to walk around.
You can get to Kassel from Frankfurt on a 2-hour train trip. Löwenburg is actually inside a much larger UNESCO World Heritage Site. The best time to visit is spring and summer. That way you'll get full access to the park and the castle interior.
So that's our journey. 5 castles, 5 different moments in time. Each castle was shaped by the world around it, and each one helped shape the world that followed.
History isn't something that's locked in a museum. It's still out there, waiting on a hilltop for you to climb the stairs and take a closer look. Daryl and I are going to keep on looking and keep on sharing our learning with you.
We hope you'll join us there.
Until then,
Happy travels, everyone.